Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals.
In between the second and the third out of Game 7, one of the most unique celebrations I've ever seen. The pitcher and the third baseman, the first two to celebrate. What was the conversation you had with Brett Saberhagen before the third out?
Well, Brett came up with Danny Jackson and Gubazal and all these young pitchers in '84. They weren't around in '76, '77, '78, '80, '81, '84. Well, '84 they were there. And so there was 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth, or the top of the ninth inning. I said, hey, look, you haven't been through all the defeats that I've been, and I'm so close to you. When this guy makes the last out, I want to be the first one on the mound. So sure enough, fly ball to right field. We're both waiting for him. And then I gave him a big hug, picked him up. I think everybody's getting that tonight, right?
That's right. That's the bobblehead.
And then Balboni comes in and he puts his arms around both of us, and then everybody's there. But it was a moment I'll never forget.
For the title.
Well, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my favorite memory of 1985, and that memory has to do with being with my mom. So my mom was an avid Royals fan ever since they came to Kansas City, and in 1973, she and my dad and with some friends bought season tickets, even though they didn't have a lot of money, because it was my mom's love. So my mom and I, at basically starting with the age of 14, I started going to baseball games with my mom. And for the next 8 years, it was, 50 to 60 plus games a year with my mom at Royal Stadium. So those memories are incredible. And the 1970s, when we couldn't make it to past the American League, or to the American League Championship, and then in 1980, when we did make it to the American League Championship and we won, and we went on to play the Phillies in 1980 and lost. So when 1985 came and we made it back to the World Series, it was a chance to spend that time with my mom again. And when we won Game 6, it was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe that we were going to make it to Game 7 after everything we'd been through in that series, being behind. And Brett Saberhagen was on the mound, pitching a gem of a game, a complete game. And also just the bats were hot, and we just came out strong right out the get-go. And so it was kind of uneventful. We knew we were going to win that game from probably the third inning on. But it was an amazing memory with my mom, especially since she's no longer with us today. Okay, now this is the most important guy. Steve Houck, fourth-generation native Californian, now a diehard Royals fan. What can you tell me about the 1985 World Series, Steve?
Well, Steve, as I perhaps have told you some of the stories, but when I married Sherry, I married into the Welter family, which was years and years and years of Royal stories. And I heard about, I think it was 1985 World Series on Sherry's and my first date.
I don't think that's true.
It may have been the second one, but it was very, very close. But she is so passionate about the Royals that we actually had 2 satellite systems at our house in Southern California in case one went down.
Anyway, there you go.
She could still see the game.
Now you know how passionate Sherry was, because Steve became part of that process.
Hope all is well. Aloha.
This is my brother Richard, or as we call him, Dick, and he's going to tell his favorite memories from the 1985 World Series. Go.
Okay, my favorite is after Game 7, my brother and I decided that we were going to go on the field and get one of the bases so that we could have a memento. We got it to second base, we pulled the base, started heading for the foul line on the first base side, when we were slowly interrupted by one of the ushers who said, "Sir, you can't have that base, put it down," and we were ushered off the field.
That's a good one. This is Lynn, and Lynn is my brother Dick's wife, and she's going to tell her story.
So in 1985, I was not living in Kansas City. I was living in that city that they frequently refer to as the mistake on the lake, i.e. I was an Indians fan. However, I've been here more than 30 years and am a total convert. Most recently was here to celebrate the 2015 World Series.
Holly Ann Davidson, and she is my brother's daughter. And she wants to tell you a little bit about her first memories of 1985 World Series.
Well, in 1985, I was 4 years old, and legend has it that my mom and dad, after the win, ran onto the field and celebrated and had a glorious time, and I still hear stories about that. But my favorite Royals memory is going to the ballpark all the time with my grandma and grandpa, and coming through the gate and getting on the cart and sitting in the shade each and every week to watch you play.
Okay, this is Seth Davidson. This is Holly's husband and happens to be the son-in-law of my brother Dick. And he wants to tell his memory of 1985 World Series.
Yeah, this is such a treat to be here, so thank you so much for this. So I was 7 years old during the 85 World Series, and I don't remember which game, but my dad and I drove here, and we didn't have tickets, but we did stand in left field and were able to watch the game from there. I'm not sure I could see the baseball, but I told my dad I could see the baseball, and it was still a great experience. So, go Royals!
Awesome.
Drew Davidson. I was born in 2009. I don't know much about the World Series, but I do know that my mom stole my uncle's World Series shirt.
Okay, this is Stella Kate Davidson. Oh, and little Blake down here as well. And Stella is Holly and Seth's daughter, and Blake is Derek and Kenzie's daughter. And so they'd like to tell us a little bit about what they know about from the 1985 World Series.
Well, in the 1985 World Series, I wasn't born yet, but I first heard about it in 2015 when I got to go when they won, and I got to go on the parade with my family and friends.
Okay, Brett, this is Derek Francis Welter. This is my brother's son, and he'd like to tell you a little bit about the 1985 World Series and his memories.
Yeah, hi Brett. I was one, but the 1985 World Series was talked about in my family for years and years and years. I'm sure someone has already told you the story of Betty and Jim, my grandparents. And so baseball always meant a ton to our family, and 85 was the encapsulation of all of that. So pictures of you, pictures of George. I have a baseball in my basement now signed by your entire team, and then I have one with just you and George. And so those are kind of mementos and memorabilia that I've had in my life and my house forever. And then to be able to experience 2015, 30 years later, was very cool to feel what my parents would have felt at the same age. So, Brett, you were one of my favorite players growing up because you were so young on that team. I got to grow up with you as kind of one of my studs. So, loved watching you play.
Thanks. Okay, Brett, this is Kenzie Welter. This is Derek's wife and is the daughter-in-law of my brother Dick. And so she wants to share with you her memories of the 1985 World Series.
Well, I was born in 1990, so I don't remember. But my family is Cardinals fans and Royals fans, so this is kind of a fun game for me to come to, and thank you for having us.
Awesome.
My name's James Welter, and I'm a really big Royals fan.
Hi, this is Blake, and I just wanted to introduce Blake to you. She is Derek and Kenzie's daughter, and she just wanted to say hi to you. So you want to say hi to Brett?
Hi, Brett.
This is Dana, and she is my niece. She's from my brother Don, and I just want to let you know that she wants to share with you what she knows about the 1985 World Series.
Hi, I'm Dana, and I was 5 years old at that time. My family loves the Royals. I'm obviously a huge fan of the Royals, so I just think it's great. I didn't obviously watch it because I was 5 at that time, or at least I don't remember, I'm sorry. But go Royals, and thanks for everything that you did to make our team wonderful. So thank you.
Okay, this is Mark. This is Dana's husband, and he would like to share with you what he remembers about the 1985 World Series, or about you.
Hi, Brett. I watched in 1985 with my best friend. I was 14, so Dana, my wife, obviously is was quite a bit younger than me. So anyway, I remember being with my best friend and jumping up and down in excitement to bring home the Royals' first World Series. And I always remember you were my favorite pitcher because you had the blonde golden locks. And I know you're from California, so you're a California kid. So thank you so much.
Okay, this is Steve Shelgren, who most infamously is remembered for the fact that he allowed my mom to go to the 2014 World Series at 86 years old off of Betty's ticket.
Yes.
But that's okay.
Okay.
But her name was Betty too, so that was appropriate.
Okay, so back to 1985. We had tickets to Game 6 and 7, but we couldn't go to Game 6 because one of our good friends had the audacity to have a wedding the night of Game 6. So we missed the infamous game, but we were there for Game 7 and saw the celebration, and then we went to Westport to celebrate, and nothing was open, but there was a bunch of people there. We had a good time.
And Brett, just so you know, Steve got to see you win your World Series MVP because you won the Game 7
That's right.
for the Royals.
We were there.
Hi, this is Betty Shelgren. I wanted you to, I want to introduce she and Steve to you, who were very, very dear friends of my mom and dad. And anyway, so here's Betty's story about 1985.
Okay, 1985. I had a ticket to the World Series with my husband Steve, and his mom stole it from me. So I didn't get to go to the World Series, but he did pick me up after they actually won it, and we went down to Westport where no one was there because it was a Sunday, and we celebrated.
Okay, this is my dear friend Judy Anderson, who, by the way, was born in St. Louis, raised in Kansas City, so she's going to tell her story.
My whole family still lived in St. Louis then, and my uncle was a rabid Cardinals fan, so he sent me a t-shirt that said Kansas Shitty on it, and I was pretty happy that we won.
So this is KP. KP is the one who's helping us right now in the suite. So KP, do you have a memory from 1985 World Series, or for Brett?
Unfortunately not from, I wasn't born yet, but Brett, I met you last year in one of the suites, and you guys were just so nice, so friendly, and I do remember my dad always telling me about the Saberhagen Shuffle. So I will never forget your name because it's just so iconic. I'm sorry you can't be here.
So do the Saberhagen Shuffle in your Kansas City Ford unit today.